In this episode, we talk to Jourdan Martin of MIG Investments. Jourdan is a great example of someone who, through perseverance and really sticking to discipline, you can grow a small account to ultimately being a full-time income. So in this episode, he does a lot to share with us his process for how he got there and how other traders who may have a small account can do it too. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Hey, Jourdan, great to meet you. How are you doing today?
Hey, Marcus, thanks for having me. I'm great, sir. How you doing?
I am excited to be here for sure. Are you ready to jump into 20 questions?
Of course.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's do it. First question. When did you start trading?
2012 was a while
Mm,
back, but yeah, 2012. It's been a journey, man. I started young. I had a custodial account with my mom.
mm-hmm.
So that's really where I got my start. And it wasn't trading, right? As far as active, that was more of a, long term, starter account, if you will, with
Mm-hmm.
long term investing, but 2012.
Gotcha. Okay, so when you started in 2012, or maybe a little bit later, once you really kind of got into the trading of specific instruments, what would you say was the thing that frustrated you most about learning to trade?
I think the hardest thing or most frustrating thing was one, I didn't have anybody to help me. Like that was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
I completely had to get it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it was especially a little weird being a minority and going to the library and checking out all these books on investments. Getting weird looks from librarians. It was a little weird. But that was the most frustrating thing. I had to get it all on my own, all the hard mistakes, the hard earned lessons, the lessons that cost me, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. I had to learn all of that solo. So that was pretty frustrating, but I persevered.
Absolutely. I mean, to be doing it from when you started to being here now is great. The perseverance is perfect. So, in terms of persevering, what would you say was the thing, or what was your process for finally getting consistent as a trader?
The consistency came when I sat down and I tested strategies. Um,
Mm,
it's really twofold. It was testing and then logging them. So at one point I paid for some back testing software, and I ran over 300 tests, just tweaking strategies. Okay, if I enter it on this day, what if I use this indicator? What if I exit
hmm.
on this? And so once I did that, that was around my college years. I was doing all those tests, and I found a strategy that was consistently profitable. The
Hmm.
profits were good, like it was a good quality strategy. So I said, okay, well, look, if I could just follow this strategy, I'll be good. And that's what I
Yep.
did, and it paid off. And so that's where it really came in. That was that, and then logging the trades, tracking little things that I could kind of, adjust to increase my success.
That is perfect. I mean, being able to back test and being able to put yourself in situations where you can learn on how the past definitely influences the future is a great way for you to learn and get consistent. So, doing all of that work and getting consistent now, my next question for you is for you as a trader, how would you define your trading edge?
My edge comes from statistics and data. So my trading now is still a lot of stuff. Like I still actually used part of that same strategy all the way from
Mhm.
back then to what I do now. But a lot of my trading now also relies on historical data and
Mhm.
seasonality. So now when I'm looking at charts, but I'm looking at charts for stocks that perform well in April, right? So if I know, Caterpillar is bad in April, I'm not going to even look at it. I'm looking
Mhm.
at 80, 90 stocks that I know typically perform well in April. So that's on my side. And then I can look at the technical analysis and find the right entries and exits to make on those stocks that already have good success.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So, and I'm hearing a research based approach to finding the correct stocks on top of the technical analysis that you do, which is great. Which kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is okay. So, what aspects, not necessarily on the technical side with trading, because we'll get into that more, but what aspects of your personality do you feel has helped you to become a successful trader?
I think the main things would be kind of like similar to my whole trading background is the perseverance,
Mm,
determination to really find it. I'm not a perfectionist, but I'm a maximist, or I don't know the word for it, but I like to
mm-hmm,
maximize. And so if I have, three, 4,000, 5,000, or whatever in an account, I want to find the way where I can get the most out of this account. Of course, keeping in mind risk, but I can make $100. Sure, why not go for two? Why not go for four? Why not go for eight?
mm-hmm.
And so that is how I approach everything with my life. Um, and then also the analytical side, which, like you said, is very research heavy. So it's more than just picking a random stock and saying, yeah, this is the stock I'm gonna get today. But it's
Mm-hmm.
okay, how does this stock perform? Okay, how does it perform with, even the technical analysis, looking at different patterns and realizing that certain technical setups perform better than others. And then so looking for those. So it's always a matter of what puts me in the best position to succeed. And that's how I do, like I said, trading. That's the same thing I do with my regular life, is what puts me in the best position for success.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So what would you say then is your favorite kind of, so I know you're trading stocks. So what would you say, do you have a favorite asset class? So what is your favorite asset class, maybe stock or instrument to trade, and then why?
So it's not really a particular stock that I just like to trade. More SPY, of course.
Yeah.
But really, for me, man, it's all about liquidity. And
Mm,
so, of course, that'll be things that have higher volume typically, right?
sure.
So that's the main thing for me. And that's the two approaches I usually tell people, is when you're trying to really hone in and get rid of all the excess, it
Hmm.
really comes down to either focusing on 1 to 3 strategies maybe and really getting good at those,
Hmm.
or 1 to 3, 4, 5 stocks and really getting good at those. And so my thing is, I have this criteria, and if anything fits that criteria, I'm open to looking into it, as
Got it.
long
Oh,
as it has liquidity.
absolutely. Okay. So, and criterion is definitely important. So, uh, kind of similar to that, do you have like an ideal market environment that you look for? A best time that you're looking to trade? And if so, how do you identify when those conditions exist?
So originally it was, of course, it's probably easier to excel or succeed in a bull market, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But the same way, you have to be adaptable. And so just like how I said, when I'm looking at stocks to buy, I'll look at, since it's April, I look at stocks that have great success in April. By the same token, there's certain stocks that perform poorly in April. And so if we were in a bear market right now, I would be looking at those stocks, and then I'll be looking at trading puts. With my options trading, I'll be looking at doing those on stocks that already are doing bad. But secondly, I really start to look more on the individual stock itself, because
Mm-hmm.
even as we're in a bull market, some stocks are in their own bear market of sorts. And so I like to have exposure on both ends, because you never know what'll happen tomorrow. Something might happen, the market tanks. So I like to have a position bearish, but also have some bullish positions. So I learned to play both sides, which I feel is very important.
Diversity is the name of the game. That's how you get to trade tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree. So, okay, let's say you find the conditions by which it's time for you to enter into a trade. What is your process for determining your position size in terms of how much risk you're going to put on for any individual trade?
When it's options, it'll be 10% of my account balance. And then when
Okay.
it's stocks, it'll be four positions, 25%. Reason being, of course, with options, so much volatility, you can't really overexpose yourself. So that's why, if I have a $10,000 account, I'll do 1,000, to this trade, with options. And then with the stocks, shares, typically they won't move as crazy as options will. So I'm okay with having a little more exposure of my account to them,
Mm-hmm.
because I still have different levels of risk management in place. But that's it, 25 for stocks and shares, 10% for options.
Got it. So, in your methodology for trading, when you calculate your position size and when you get into a trade, um, is there a situation in which you trail in certain trades? And if you do end up trailing, how do you determine when those conditions exist for you to kind of jump in and let your profits run a little bit longer?
Yeah, so always, 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 when I get in a trade, I have a a profit target,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a stop loss area, right? And so when I'm looking at it, and I'll set alerts on my phone. I work full time, and I'm swing trading, so I'll have alerts on my phone. They'll go off, ding, Amazon hit your profit target, sell your stuff, right? But what I
Mm-hmm.
always do is whether it's buying or selling, I still will always look at the chart, and then I'll see if my reason for entry is still valid. So if I'm trading a breakout, for example, and I'm looking at Amazon going from 3,000 to 3,100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, it hits it, but it's not showing any signs of slowing down. I'll say, okay, well, now at this point, I'll start trailing a little bit. Um, and then, I'll move my stop loss up, and I'll just keep looking at it to see when it actually is not a valid trade anymore. But outside of that, if it does hit my target and I look at the chart and it seems like, okay, it made the move, looks like it's pretty much, solid time for me to go ahead and get out. I'll start looking into different positions because you don't ever want to get tied to a position. I'm sure you already know that. You don't want to get married to a trade, and there's always other stocks and other opportunities out there. And so if Amazon already made this huge move and I was a part of it, or even if I got out early, now it's time for me to find the next opportunity. What's on the loading dock? What's up next? So I'll trail it if the position still holds a valid reason to be in it.
Got it. Got it. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about kind of goal setting when you are in trades or when you have your profit and loss. So for you, how do you go about achieving monetary goals or profit goals when you're trading? Do you have a daily goal, a weekly goal? Is it more about execution? Like what is your strategy by which you know when to jump into and also when to stop trading?
So as far as a monetary goal, I used to have monetary goals. But what I found was having that goal in mind could easily lead to overtrading.
Mm,
And so it was time periods where I was doing these things called, I would call them like a challenge, like $1,000 account challenge, $500 account challenge. And when I did it on my own, like just for me, I would go crazy with it. I was trading options. I triple the account in a month, no
mhm,
problem, right? Then I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do a 1,000 to 10,000 account challenge, in however much time span. But then in doing that, now when you take a loss, it's like, well, crap. Let me adjust my calculations. Okay, so now I need my next trade to make me 80%. Okay, I'm only up 40. Normally I'd sell it, but I need 80, right?
mhm,
And so that's where after experiencing that multiple times, I say, I'm done with worrying about a dollar amount. My main focus, because I run two accounts, I have my long term and then my more active one. My
mhm,
main focus is just making consistent gains in the active account and then moving it over to the long term. So whether it's a 10% gain in the active account, cool. It's 10% more than I had before. Move it over to the long term. 20%, cool. Move it over. So I don't really chase the goals as much as I used to
mhm.
because I know after all the back testing, after consistently sticking to my plan, I know that the way I trade leads to success. So I'm not really too worried about the level of success anymore, because again, getting caught up in that can lead to some shady trading and over trading.
Absolutely. Happens all of the time. So let's switch gears a little bit and now talk about your trading psychology. So for you, how do you define success personally as a trader?
Oh, so that's funny that you asked that. The way I look at it is something I like to go by. I call it I think it's CCP, um, where I like to have it where it's PPC. That's what it is: profitable, probable, and comfortable. Right.
Mm,
So that's the
mm-hmm,
same thing for me as I would say, like when people ask me questions, say you want it to be profitable, probable, and comfortable. And so to break that down, of course, you want profitability, so you can make money, right?
mm-hmm,
But you can make money only winning one out of every 10 trades.
mm-hmm,
But that's really low probability. It's gonna mess up your head and you're not comfortable. Nobody's comfortable winning only one out of 10. Even if over time you come out on paper, your mental is messed up. So for me, it's just a matter of finding again. I'm because of my my goals, and everybody's
Hmm.
goals are different, right? My goal isn't tied to a monetary value. I'm not trying to hit, $10,000 to pay off a car necessarily, right? I'm just trying to build up a long-term account. Like I said, whether it's 100 here, 200 here, 1,000 here, I'm trying to build that up. So as long as my trading is profitable, high probability, and it's comfortable for me, I feel successful with what I'm doing because that large term account is growing when all those other three things are met.
Got it. So we're talking about growth here, but as we know, trading has swings. There's ups and there's downs, no matter what type of trader you are. So for you, how do you handle when you are experiencing a losing streak?
Man, you're exactly right. It does happen. It happens to the
Hmm.
best of us. So when I go through a losing streak, a couple of different things or different approaches I'll take. One is if it's still trades active in my account, a lot of times I'll just close them all out. Close them out, start a fresh slate. There's no more red on the screen. Start the next day. There's no red for the day at all. Um,
Hmm.
and oftentimes, what helps even more is to really take a break, because it's easy to get into the feeling of having to trade every day or having to make a trade, and even if it's not day trading, but having to find a new position, to
Sure.
get in every day, a new swing every day. Um, and really taking a break 3 days. I'll stop trading on Wednesday. I got Thursday off, Friday off, and you got the weekend. Really taking that break, relaxing, starting fresh on Monday. Just like a New Year's resolution. It's like new me. I can do this. It's hey, it's a new week. My account's fresh. Let's start over. Get back to the basics.
Absolutely. So in relation to that, talking about going through a losing streak, which does have an effect on you both mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Kind of how do you deal with the inevitable kind of anxiety and frustrations that come up as a result of just trading in general?
Man, and this is something I actually um I I talk about a lot with people is, and it's kind of I think it's a good thing and a bad thing,
Hmm.
is that I set out to, of course, remove my emotions from my trading, but then I ended up removing too much emotion from my trading.
Hmm.
So I don't really run into a lot of frustration. I don't run into self-doubt. Um, if something isn't working, I figure out what's wrong with it. And this is just, my mentality in general is being mad is a waste of time. Doubting myself is a waste of time. Okay, there's a problem. Okay, let me get out my, I don't even get in my head anymore. It's find a solution, right? Okay, I'm losing money. Why? Okay, I'm holding trades too long. Okay, so I should have got out when they did XYZ. All right, next week I'm getting out when it does XYZ. Boom,
Hmm.
clear and done. Because trading isn't our life. We have other things in life to do, and I can't let some stuff in my trading account affect my emotions and my mentality the rest of the day. You know what I mean? So I really don't deal with it. It is what it is. You're gonna make money, you're gonna lose money. As long as you make more money than you lose, right? I'm feeling good. Um, and so, like I said, man, as long as I move more money from my active account to my long term account, I'm cool. I don't worry about frustration, man. Just fix the problem and get on.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So I hear that you're doing a lot of management, both with your own emotions and your mentality, which is incredibly important for trading. One of the things that I stress the most, both in this podcast and with my own coaching practice, is that the ability to be able to eliminate emotions from your trading decisions and not be too held down over the outcome of any individual trade will do so much more for your trading than anything else that you can ultimately do. So it's good to hear that you are tackling those sorts of issues and that you brought that forward so other traders can see that the most successful traders do that as well. But what is that thing that you feel is that you still struggle with as a trader? Like, what's that thing that you still need to fix, but you're still just kind of dealing with it?
If I had to say there's something, because you're right, there's always something. There's always an area to improve. Nobody's just perfect, right?
Of course not. No.
Yeah. So for me, if I had to say something, it'd be getting back to logging my trades, because while it's a little tedious, I find great success every single time I log my trades.
Mm,
All 3 times. I've done it 3 times where I log them for a month in an Excel sheet, even if it was 100 trades, put them all in. And every time I've done it, I've more than doubled my account for the month. I've also had success of over 80% every time, and then when I stop, I mean, I might still do good, but I can't really clearly identify what went well, what areas for improvement there are.
mm-hmm,
And so I think just getting back to that, like I said, while sometimes it seems a little tedious, getting back to truly tracking will allow me to really see what areas still need a little fine tuning. Whether it's, I took 3 trades this month that were really just like YOLO trades where I was like, I could throw $300 on this and see what happens. And then I lost the trade, which 3 trades at $300 a piece, I lost almost $1,000 on just me saying, "Hey, what the heck? Let's see what happens."
mm-hmm.
Uh, Again, that's something that really helps prevent that. So I think I need to really get back on that. That's a good question.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't measure it, how are you going to improve it? You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. We just got a few questions left. So, just want to jump into these last little bit of questions for 20 questions. So, my first question in this last set is for you, what is the best trade that you feel like you've ever made?
Best trade. Man, I'm not sure if this would even be the best trade. I know it was probably one of my best days.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was 2019. It might have been 2020. It was a day where the market was just dropping like crazy. Um, it was dropping like crazy, and I say this because this was probably one of my highest ROI trades.
Hmm.
Market was going crazy, everything was dropping, people were freaking out, and what I did was I just started buying puts on any stock that hadn't already dropped that day. I was just buying puts, like, oh, this stock is only down 2 cents right now. Puts.
Hmm.
And so what I actually ended up having was that day I made about $5,000. But particularly Boeing, I caught Boeing before it had a huge drop. I was buying puts on everything, like I said, and I bought Boeing contracts for $60, and I ended up selling them for $600 that same day,
Mm.
a couple of hours later. I think that was probably my best trade in terms of ROI.
Sure. Definitely sounds like a good day. Um, so on the reverse side of that, then what would you say is the worst trade you feel like you've ever made?
Oh man, so let's see. Worst trade. It's really multiple. Honestly, it's just any trade that I took that I knew didn't fit my strategy. I
Mm.
knew that I really didn't need to be taking the trade. I knew
Hmm.
that I was risking too much on that trade, which is really kind of crazy because you'll risk. Sometimes you'll risk more, or I did anyway. Sometimes I risked more on trades that didn't align with my strategy at all than trades that did align with my strategy for some reason. But yeah, there's a couple of trades where I just said, hey, whatever, I'm gonna throw a couple thousand on this, and yeah, it didn't work out. I know I did that a couple of times with Tesla. And so that's really it. It was really some FOMO trades. That's really what it was.
Mm.
It was some FOMO type trades. So like I said, there's multiple of those that I just said, hey, whatever, we'll see what happens. And majority of the times, my we'll see what happens, whatever FOMO type trades, most of the time they don't work out. So
I get it. I've been there as well. Okay, so for these next two questions, what I want to do is kind of jump into our podcast time machine. Okay, and so in this first question, I want to go back to the past. Let's say we're going back to Jourdan at the time when he had just gotten started trading, right? So, given everything that you've learned and everything that you know now in this present moment, what would be the number one advice you would give to Jourdan back then as he was getting started trading?
don't trade yet. And what I mean by that is not trading with money, right? My active money.
Mm,
So if we could go back and I could have my knowledge still go all the way back, I probably wouldn't trade for a couple months, if not maybe even a year, because the importance of back testing, paper trading, and logging your results is so huge that I feel like I could really try to stomach a year of not trading just so that I have the full discipline for the rest of my time
Mm-hmm.
of knowing, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm executing, this is what works, this is what didn't work. I tried, I tested 20 strategies over the course of the year. These two are the ones that did great, um, all without putting my own capital at risk. So that's what I would do, man. I wouldn't trade. I would just back test, paper trade, log everything, fine tune everything.
Sure, absolutely. And that's great advice. I know when I got serious about trading, it took me 2 years before I even traded with real money. I sat with my $25,000 demo paper account, and it wasn't until I grew that account to $13 million that I was like, okay, well, let me actually put some money, like my real money, in because I found a process, I found a system that I trust enough to be able to put some real money on the line. So that's great advice to give to any specific trader. And I'm glad that that's something that you have learned and hopefully that you're pushing for the others. Okay. So that was the past. So now let's jump into the future. Okay. It's 12 months from now. So it's a year after we release this podcast. We're going and we're doing our anniversary episode. Okay. What would have to happen in your trading over that next year for you to feel like you are truly happy with the results?
Oh man, that's a great question again. Because of course hindsight is always 2020, and we'll be like, yeah, man. And a lot of times we don't even think about the next year until we're in the next year. Then we're like, dang,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say if we did an anniversary episode, had me back, asked me how everything has been. I'd say as far as trading success, um, man, I think the main thing for me is I want to start building more passive income with my long-term account.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's not really a ROI, it's not really a win rate, or a dollar amount necessarily in terms of account balance. But if I can take, my current amount of, high producing dividends, and if I could just maybe double that, right, or triple that over the course of a year, um, then I feel I've had success because I've created, more passive income through the market.
Mm, okay. That's good to know. I appreciate you taking the time today to jump into this podcast for 20 questions. I just got one final question for you. Can you let us know what do you got going on? How can my people support you? Kind of let us know where we can go to check you out.
Sure. So majority of my information is on my Instagram, which is Jourdan Martin, Jourdan Martin 3, where I post videos all the time. I have Instagram lives. I do one almost every Saturday at night. So a lot of that on Instagram. If they're newer traders, I do have a free beginners course that I created for people who have no clue where to start, and need some more guidance. People that have been trading for a year, even, go in there and they come out with something that they learned. And then aside from that, like I said, my edge is from seasonality. And I have created what I call the profit calendar, which
Mm,
is literally like a calendar with buy dates and sell dates based on seasonal trading. So that's also on my website, migcourses.com, where you can go in there and you can see I put a preview up, so you can go in there and you can see what stocks perform well, what dates they perform well on, and then the average profit and how many years in a row they have performed well.
that is great. Well, we'll make sure to put a link to your Instagram account as well as your website in the show notes. So if you want to go ahead and check out Jourdan, you definitely can. Jourdan, thank you so much. This has been another episode of the podcast, and I appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. Thank you.
Not a problem.